Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I want to talk about why I believe the Toronto Raptors are one of the biggest winners of free agency. That they have done not a rebuild, a retooling, not only getting players to help them continue to be playoff contenders, but actually put themselves in a position to be a few pieces away from being championship contenders. So before we start today's video, I would love to hear those lovely opinions down below in the comments section. Hit that like and subscribe button to help support the channel. Guys, weird setup. I'm visiting my parents in Maryland, so I'm just in my living room right now. I don't have my lights and stuff, so sorry about that. But let's get right in today's video and let's talk about the moves, okay? So they have brought in Goran Dragic. They brought back Gary Trent Jr. and Khem Birch, which were much needed acquisitions, okay, that they needed to bring back, or players, or transactions. Either way, it doesn't matter. But what I want to say is those were two players that they had to bring back. And Khem Birch is only going to cost them $6.3 million this year, and Gary Trent is going to cost them $16.6. So really not that bad. Their most expensive contract that they brought in is Goran Dragic's $19.4, which they could really look to move at the trade deadline. But I think he's a great veteran to have for the playoffs. They also brought in Ismail Wainwright, who is a guy that I don't know much about, but he seems like he's a guard and he's played ball overseas, and he played for the Baylor Bears, okay? He's actually from Kansas City, Missouri, and he played overseas and he came back, and he's a guy who's kind of a Bruce Brown Jr. type player, a little Swiss Army knife. So he could, and he's a good replacement for DeAndre Bembry. They also brought in Sam Decker, who averaged 15 points a game and shot 40% from three the past few years in the EuroLeague. So they brought in moves that were good. And they also brought in Precious Achiuwa, who, if he puts on 15 pounds, he could be their starting center, in my opinion. I really do believe that he could be their starting center. Now, the roster is right now Fred Gillespie, Yuta Watanabe. Did I say that correctly? Tell me down below. I've been trying to get that down for so long right now. Yuta Watanabe. Did I say that correct? Raptors fans, tell me down below. And Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Chris Boucher. So, and their free agents are that they have cap holds or that they could bring back. They also have Scotty Barnes. I didn't mention who was their first round draft pick this year. They could bring back Stanley Johnson if they'd like to, which I wouldn't actually mind them bringing back Stanley Johnson, who kind of had a career year this past season for them, and playing 16 and a half minutes per game, and he wasn't bad, okay? Like, he wasn't doing anything great, but he was a good role player, and that's kind of what you want in the NBA. You want good role players. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What do you guys think of those moves? Now, when I look at this, I think the starting lineup is going to be Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., then you have right there at the small forward position, it's probably going to be OG Anunoby, who I believe is going to break out this year and become a superstar and be a 20-point per game scorer and be the next generation of the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler mold, where they start out as these defensive players for the first 3 years of their career, first 3-4 years, and then they break out as these great scorers because their scoring catches up. I think Jaylen Brown, OG Anunoby are going to be our generation of those players. And then at power forward, you'll do Pascal Siakam with Khem Birch being the starting center, with Precious Achiuwa as the backup power forward and backup center. I think, well, Chris Boucher is the primary backup power forward and backup center, with Precious Achiuwa as that third option for both of those positions. Then you go over to the small forward, backing up OG Anunoby is probably going to be a combination of Yuta Watanabe and Sam Decker, I personally believe. And then you go over to the point guard position. It's going to be starting, I believe, Fred VanVleet backed up by Goran Dragic, will probably be their sixth man, and Malachi Flynn is the third point guard option. Also, Fred Gillespie is going to be the fourth, I believe, option in power forward and center. So I think that's a great option right there. I love him. I think he's also going to be another great breakout player this year. So then you look over, and Malachi Flynn is going to back up behind Goran Dragic as the third point guard. And then you go over to shooting guard. And that's where it gets interesting because Gary Trent's obviously the starter. Fred VanVleet can play some minutes if they do Dragic. They might run 3 point guard lineups where it's Dragic, VanVleet, and Trent Jr. Sort of similar to what Billy Donovan ran for the OKC Thunder, because Nick Nurse is a guy who always goes out and looks at what other teams are doing. That's a very big part of his thing. Nick Nurse is a guy who coached in London, in Australia, in Belgium. I actually listened to his audiobook I think in May. Last time I did so driving to Maryland takes 18 hours. So I normally listen to audiobooks when I go or podcasts. And yeah, so that's where I sit here, and I truly believe that Nick Nurse, he's one of the best shooting coaches in the league. So I think right here, when you sit here, you're looking at a team that is a playoff team. Yeah, right now they only have, 13 players on the roster. 14 players if you keep Scotty Barnes. And also, I haven't mentioned Scotty Barnes at all in those lineups. And I think Scotty Barnes, it's hard to gauge his minutes, okay? This is why I've kept him at the end of the video. It's also because I kind of forgot. But what I want to say is Scotty Barnes, it will depend on how long Pascal will be out, how ready Scotty Barnes is. Because I don't think Nick Nurse will put him out there if he's not confident in his shot. He won't put him out there for more than 15 minutes a night. So that's where I get scared, because I think Nick Nurse will bring him on slowly if he feels like he has to. But if he feels like he needs to put him out there day one, play the minutes, get those feelings, then he'll do that. I really feel like Nick Nurse is going to be a guy that if he doesn't feel confident in his shot, then we're going to see Nick Nurse make sure. Wait. Oh, yeah. Omar Yurtsev. Damn. Omar Yurtsev just signed with the Miami Heat. He averaged 26 points and 13.5 rebounds. Damn, that's wild. But yeah, no. So I think, that's what I got, guys. Scotty Barnes, it really will depend. He could be the primary backup small forward instead of Sam Decker and Yuta Watanabe, if that 3-point shot is a lot more ready. It's Nick Nurse is going to make that call. It's very hard to predict. But yeah, that's it. Like, subscribe. Let me hear your beautiful comments. But ooga, I'm out.